Episode 3. Start with the Problem, Part 1. Once upon a time. The Meridian cafe buzzed with soft conversation, the hiss of steaming milk punctuating the hum of voices. Ryan Ellis sat at a corner table, his laptop bag slung over the back of his chair and a cappuccino cooling in front of him. He checked his watch again, brushing invisible lint from the sleeve of his blazer. Matthew was late. Ryan had met Matthew once before, at a conference on value-driven selling. The encounter had been brief, but memorable. Matthew's calm confidence, his ability to cut through the noise and focus on outcomes, had left a lasting impression. So, when Ryan found himself grappling with the growing frustrations of his sales team, Matthew was the first person he thought to call. The door jingled and Matthew walked in, his presence as unassuming as ever. He wore a crisp white shirt, open at the collar, and carried a tablet under his arm. Spotting Ryan, he offered a small wave and crossed the room to join him. "Ryan," Matthew said, shaking his hand, "good to see you again. What's on your mind?" Chapter 2. The Frustration. Ryan leaned back, exhaling heavily. "It's my sales team," he began. "We're stuck. The old ways of selling just aren't cutting it anymore. Every deal feels like a slog. Endless feature comparisons, discounting battles, and buyers who won't commit. I know there's a better way. I've seen what you've accomplished with value selling." Matthew nodded, folding his hands on the table. "And your team? How are they handling it?" Ryan hesitated. "They're resistant. We've always sold on relationships and product features. The idea of shifting to a value-based approach feels risky to them. And my manager, he's a good leader, but he's not sold on the idea either. I want to convince him to try value selling, but I don't know where to start." Matthew considered this for a moment, then leaned forward slightly. "Let me ask you something. Why do you believe in value selling?" Ryan blinked, caught off guard. "Because it works. It's what buyers care about. Outcomes, not features." "Exactly," Matthew said, his voice calm but firm. "Your team needs to see that too. But you're not going to convince them by talking about features or methods. You need to show them why it matters. To them, to their buyers, and to your business." Chapter 3. The Coaching. Matthew picked up a napkin and slid it across the table. "Here's how I'd approach it," he said, drawing 3 bullet points with a pen. 1. Start with the problem. Your team leader needs to see why the old way isn't working. Focus on the problems you're facing as a team. Long sales cycles, buyers dragging their feet, constant price pressure. Then connect those problems to the solution, value selling. 2. Explore the vision and the hurdles. If you want to win him over, acknowledge the challenges. Talk about what it would take to implement value selling at scale, the time, the cost, the cultural adoption curve, and the learning investment. Make it clear that you understand his concerns, but also show him how you can start small. Test the waters without committing the whole team. 3. Highlight the immediate wins. This is the key, Matthew continued, his voice steady. Show him the outcomes you can measure right away. Speed to the economic buyer, consensus building with the buying committee, and expanding the scope of deals. These are metrics he'll care about because they tie directly to faster closes and bigger revenue. Ryan scribbled the points in his notebook, nodding along. "This makes sense," he said. "But how do I get him to listen in the first place? He's already skeptical." Matthew smiled faintly. "That's where you lean on empathy. Start the conversation by asking him what his biggest frustrations are. And listen, don't try to convince him right away. Make him feel heard." Chapter 4. The Meeting. Armed with Matthew's coaching, Ryan approached his team leader, Josh Carter, the next day. Josh was a seasoned seller, set in his ways, and Ryan could feel the resistance the moment he sat down. "Josh, I wanted to talk to you about something I've been thinking about, Ryan began, keeping his tone conversational. What do you see as the biggest challenges we're facing as a team? Josh leaned back, crossing his arms. Same as always. Long sales cycles, buyers dragging their feet, constant price pressure. Ryan nodded. Exactly. And I think there's a way to address those challenges. Have you ever thought about trying value selling? Josh's expression tightened. We've looked at it before. It's complicated, time-consuming. Not sure it's worth the effort. I hear you, Ryan said, leaning forward. But what if we didn't try to overhaul everything at once? What if we started small, with just a few deals, and measured the impact? Imagine being able to show faster progress to the economic buyer, get consensus earlier with the buying committee, and expand deal sizes. Josh hesitated, his skepticism softening slightly. You really think it could work? I do, Ryan said firmly, and I'd be happy to take the lead on this. All I'm asking is for a chance to prove it. Chapter 5. The Ripple Effect. The pilot program began with just 2 deals. Using the principles of value selling and Ryan's careful guidance, the team saw results almost immediately. Buyers were more engaged, decisions were faster, and the deals closed above the expected revenue. The team was cautiously optimistic, but as the pilot expanded, challenges emerged. Building custom value models manually was slow and labor-intensive. Ryan and his colleagues often found themselves working late into the night, refining numbers and aligning assumptions. The effort paid off, but Ryan couldn't shake the nagging thought. There has to be a better way. Chapter 6. The Call. Late one evening, as Ryan sat at his desk reviewing the latest value model, his thoughts drifted back to Matthew. He remembered the effortless precision of Matthew's advice, the way he seemed to cut through the noise with uncanny accuracy. Ryan stared at the glowing numbers on his screen, exhaustion weighing heavily on him. He has to be using something, Ryan murmured to himself. Some tool, some system. There's no way he's doing all of this manually. The idea sparked something in him, a mix of curiosity and determination. He grabbed his phone and opened his contacts. Scrolling down to Matthew's name, he hesitated for only a moment before tapping the call button. The line rang once, twice, before Matthew's familiar voice answered. Ryan, he said, his tone steady. What's on your mind? Ryan leaned back in his chair, the beginnings of a smile tugging at his lips. We need to talk, he said. I think you've been holding out on me. To be continued.